Some of the people following our progress on social media may have seen this slab a handful of times throughout its development process over the last 12 months. We've been trying to get this project going for so long, and we've loved all the great feedback that you guys have given us along the way by means of comments, the questionnaires, and the prototype slabs that we sent out. But finally, after the long wait, we now have our first edition stock available, but we can't promise that it will be around for long. But what you haven't seen is the painstaking development process involved in getting the final product into our hands, making it as compact and as solid as it possibly could. Our original intention was to just make a basic video showing what we have to offer and how grading works. That will still come, but because we learned so much along the way, we felt that we had to share it with you all. So in the spirit of being transparent, this is our journey. You'd be forgiven for asking, why would a tiny plastic box take so long to develop? I thought it would be pretty straightforward too. I figured we would just hit up one of those many PSA style slab manufacturers in China that everyone was using and we were off. Oh, but it seems that everyone is using these slabs, making the design just become such a stagnant choice in the market, even to the point of putting me off of my own PSA slabs. No problem, they all have the option to just add your little logo in the bottom hand corner, just like PSA do, and... oh. Okay then, why don't we just give them our new measurements, and hey presto, we're off to the races. We've got a new, unique looking slab in an oversaturated market. Were it so easy.
Were it so easy.
We were approached by some wholesalers with some of the more unique looking cases to test out, but unfortunately they didn't bring anything new or beneficial to the table. They were the same size overall, but they were just different for being different's sake. Our train of thought was to either go thick and premium feeling, like the Beckett's or now Ace Grading, or to have a compact, slim design while still being quite structurally rigid. So aside from the visual appeal, which is totally subjective, how can we make this a better slab than anyone else's? I mean, it's just a plastic case. In our eyes, what a good slab needed to be was crystal clear, hold the card well, but not too well, because that can be a little bit worse for it than actually being loose, and staying sealed. Regrettably, some of the cards that we'd had graded didn't meet these criteria for us. Number 1, being clear. If you're getting this style of slab, odds are that it's polystyrene. It's a totally normal practice when mass producing plastic, especially overseas. However, it's typically the cheaper option that over time can yellow and crack, and it's 5 to 10% less transparent than acrylic, depending on manufacturing qualities, which is why we opted for acrylic. While it's a slightly more expensive plastic in the grand scheme of things, we wanted to future-proof the cases. They have a much clearer glassy tint to them, similar to CGCs but without the blue dye. They won't yellow, and because of the rigidity, they will snap long before they can be pried apart. Two, holding the card well. If you have a large pile of cards nearby, go and grab them and put them in a line like this. Even better if you have cards from different countries or release dates in there. We found that they're all marginally different sizes, some of them drastically so. This is because of the card-shaped stamp that punches them out at the factories. When they're new, they give a nice clean cut with brilliantly rounded corners, but over time they wear down. This is what can give you the little squared corners, and it actually affects the overall size of the card as well. So our frame had to allow for the largest possible card and the smallest, while not being too loose and having it rattle about inside. So we'd hired a 3D designer to make all of our sketches come to life, and had a lot of 3D samples made to test out our frame. All the testing that we'd done had shown that it was far safer to have a negligible gap than a flush-fitting, tight seal in a case that is put under so much pressure. Number 3, staying sealed. That's got to be the main part of grading and preserving your cards. You don't want them to fall out or have someone potentially swap the card for a worse condition one when you're buying a second-hand slab. So to help us with that, we sat down with a few ultrasonic join designers. Yes, I know that's actually a job that exists. I was under the impression initially that to ultrasonically weld plastic together, it just heats up and melts the plastic. But it's a little bit more clever than that. To keep it short, ultrasonic welding happens by dialing in a frequency on your machine that makes the material of choice vibrate to a point that it melts. And it all happens in a split second. It can even be done with metals. So what stops the whole slab from melting? I'm glad you asked. This is an ultrasonic welding join. The triangular part is approximately 0.25 millimeters tall. So once you apply the frequency to it, because that is the thinnest part of the whole slab, and because the process is over in under a second, that triangular part is the only bit that melts, making it look like this afterwards. So we've spent a lot of time and frankly money going back and forth between the 3D designers, making tiny adjustments for us, and the welding company to a point that they're both happy that the design was as good as it can be. Then obviously we had 3D samples made. We had some CNC'd for us, we had some 3D printed. But we couldn't test what the final product would be like without having the final product. So we decided, let's go for it. The mould was going to cost us around £1,500. The day before we placed the order, the injection moulding company that we'd been in talks with for months had just gone dark. No replies to any emails. Turns out the company had just shut down days before we placed the order. While financially we dodged a bullet, this delayed us a lot because it meant that we had to source another injection moulding company that could meet all of the requirements outlined in our original briefing. But it must have been a blessing from Arceus himself, because upon finding a new injection moulding company, they'd immediately spotted a fatal flaw with our 3D design, which would stop the slab from closing properly. We were immediately sold because they picked up on such a blatantly obvious flaw, and then we placed the order. And here we are. We're really impressed with how this came out. The label was a bit of a mind-boggler on its own. We didn't know what would really work for them. It was such a split down the community on what should or shouldn't be included on them. So after all of our original designs, we'd found that it really only boils down to two things: either distracting from the card or subtly complementing it. A massive thank you to a man called Ace for reaching out to us with these amazing, minimal and super clean designs that he and his Twitch chat had actually designed for us. We're sending you a special card as a thank you. Then we opened up the conversation with everyone. We'd had so many submissions for our unique label design. Eventually the people had settled and decided that PokerHUD's design is what we would move forward with. Simple, clean and no borders to be off-centre with a really clever single pixel wide watermark that can't be reproduced with an ordinary printer. On the reverse you'll find a hologram and the QR code that takes you to our database page for your card, which was also voluntarily made by PokerHUD. I was just manually adding numbers to the web page for the population reports and adding individual web pages for new cards. Thanks a million, Jack. We're also sending you some cards as well as a discount code for you, so head over to his Instagram page, linked below, if you want to get a hold of it. We'd thought about other things to add to the label to modernise it or to stand out, but it just didn't need anything. We dabbled with NFC tags, but they can be cloned just as easily as a QR code and do have a potential failure rate. So in terms of security or proofing against forgeries, we've already got enough. We've got the holograms, the watermarks, and ultimately, the case itself can't be replicated. So we're all collectors. We like adding things to our collections, right? What started out its life as a little thank you business card to be included in returns has evolved into something much cooler. When you submit your card, you'll also receive this metal certificate of authenticity. This solved a few issues for us. Not only does it include the subgrades that were originally on the website when you just scanned the QR code, because this again was a bit of a split down the community on whether they should be included on the label or not. But if you take a card out of your binder to be graded, that leaves an empty space in your master set. But because this is a standard trading card sized card, it will fit perfectly where the old card used to be. Pretty cool, right? But if that's not for you, you can still get this card encapsulated too. We think that these are awesome, and we really hope that you do too. We wanted consistency with all the submissions and returns, so we didn't want to have this as an optional paid extra that would only divide the community later down the line. So these come back with every submission at no extra cost. Once you get them in your hands, we'd love to hear your feedback on them. We already have some small changes that we want to implement in the next batch that we buy, like making a little bit more room in the boxes. So if you want to help contribute to that, let us know in the Discord. So what else is there to talk about? Website stock control. Is that really a talking point? That we don't take more submissions than we can handle?
Yep.
Okay. Well, on the topic of the website, we didn't want a copy-paste Squarespace site, so I actually tried making it. I know it's not the best looking thing in the world, but it will evolve over time as we do. We wanted the grading process just to be really simple, because some of the others that we tried can be a little bit confusing. So ours works just as any online shop will. Add to basket, checkout, done. And that's pretty much our journey so far. So what does the future hold? Well, once we're up and running and we've made some of our costs back, we are going to expand to Magic the Gathering, Dragon Ball, and even MetaZoo. Anything in the standard TCG card size is ready to be graded. We just need to train with those cards for a while. We already have a few hires waiting who specialise in these categories. After that, it's up to you. We know that we want to do Yu-Gi-Oh! As well as jumbo cards, booster packs, and even ETBs. We will have all of these available to us as soon as we can. However, these will require new 3D designs, new molds to be made. So jump in the Discord link below and voice which one you want to have made first, because they will take some time to be developed. Other than expanding the grading side of things, we have plans to bring all kinds of card storage solutions to you at as close to wholesale price as possible. Now, this isn't a profit-based plan, and it only came to fruition from discussions that we've had with a few people on Instagram. To bring binders, top loaders, card savers, sleeves, all of the above, to everyone as cheap as they can be. I mean, we've all seen when companies just slap their logo on these products, sell them at standard retail price. It's just not competitive, and in some cases isn't fair for what little effort has been put into buying and reselling. So more on that in an update video down the line, and also we'll be discussing it in the Discord. And lastly, our ultimate goal, it will be years down the line, is to set up a museum of sorts that could even go on tour around the country of all the English released Pokemon cards. Yes, it will be expensive and take a very long time to complete, but we're pretty determined. And at some point in 2022, we will be looking at setting up a trade-in option where you can donate your doubles for grading credit. This will help you clear out some of your clutter and will help us get that much closer to starting the museum. So you might be thinking, why are we doing this and why now? Well, if you've made it this far, we really appreciate the interest that you've taken. You may just be thinking, oh, another one. Now, we know the market has had a lot of grading companies this year. Just to make our intentions perfectly clear, our first post was back in January 2021, about 4 months before PSA had temporarily shut their doors. This originally started out as a way for me to build some cool displays for my master sets, which has just snowballed and snowballed into where we are now. While I think it's great that there's such a variety of choice for people, I personally didn't find a company that ticked all my boxes, and I think it's safe to say that a few of us have been burnt by some of them. We're not here to create a false market of inflation or just to make a quick buck. We're not going to label ourselves as the UK's premier, the UK's best, the UK's this or that grading company, because it isn't our place to decide. I'm personally tired of being treated like an idiot as the customer. Not calling anyone out in particular, but being sold a little bit of snake oil with the greatest security in slab design, or the greatest design of slabs that hasn't been bought from China. We just wanted a product that we wanted to use and a service that we wanted to use, and we'll be thrilled if you want to use it too. So I know that we're really late to the party, but I promise it was worth the wait.